Hi everyone, I'm Archinal, and today we're going to explore the behaviors of a financially motivated adversary group known as FIN7. This group targets a wide range of industries and is known to use notable malware such as the REvil ransomware. And they've also launched their own ransomware as a service operation known as DarkSide. To gain some deeper insight into this adversary group, I often turn to one of my go-to resources, which is the MITRE attack matrix. You may be familiar with it because I've mentioned it a lot. So if we navigate to the CTI tab and select the groups under the dropdown, we can scroll down and start to find FIN7. Now, as confirmed, this is a financially motivated group. They target retail, restaurant, hospitality, software, consulting, financial services, list goes on. But that's not the value that we're looking for from this group or at the MITRE attack. What we're looking for is the documented behaviors and tactics that they've used previously. Now, the MITRE organization is great with documenting all these different attacks and all these different behaviors that have been used. So we can come down and take a look at the techniques used by this group. As you can see, the numbers in the brackets, those are different references that they use, which are really helpful when it comes time to looking at, say, a specific tactic, technique, or sub-technique. In this case, let's take a look at boot or logon auto start execution, specifically using registry run keys in the startup folder. And this technique ID is T1547, and the sub-technique ID is .001. So let's jump into that real quick just to see what information it provides us. And as we can read, it's when adversaries may achieve persistence by adding a program to a startup folder or referencing it with their registry run key. Now, if we're not familiar with what those locations are or what they look like, the MITRE organization is, once again, great with documentation. They provide us a lot of information on that. So the following run keys are created by default on Windows systems. And then as we scroll down, there are many other locations and registry keys that they reference. These registry keys can be used to set startup folder items for persistence. These ones can control automatic startup of services during boot, and so on. But they give us a lot of information on different ways to hunt for this adversary, not just the values, but for different hypotheses as well. Now, let's go back to the FIN7 group. And let's take a look at this technique again. So we're once again focusing on the boot or logon auto start execution, specifically using registry run keys in startup folders. Now there are two instances or two reports that they source this information from. So let's jump over there real quick and check out the first one. So this report, which was Mandiant and is now Google Cloud, is titled FIN7 Evolution in the Phishing LNK. And we can see that it was authored on April 24th, 2017. You may be asking, well, why are we using this report to reference it? The tactics, techniques, and procedures have got to be out of date. Before you get too carried away with it, let's take a look at where the auto start run registry reference is. So we scroll down and we're partially down the page, but specifically under the persistence mechanism section, we can see that figure 3 shows that for persistence, the document creates 2 scheduled tasks and creates 1 auto start registry entry point, pointing to the LNK file. Here in figure 3, we can see the third item does actually discuss or mention exactly what it said, the software of Microsoft Windows current version run key. Now, that reference, we can always go back to the FIN7 or the MITRE attack matrix. And here, that's exactly what the technique they discuss. So we've confirmed that not only did MITRE say they used it, but they found the resource and they proved it. Another reason you can use those intel reports is that, say we wanted to take a look at that attack specifically, we can go back to the report and document all the TTPs and behaviors that we've seen in that single attack and maybe replicate that and hunt for that activity. Or we can check the next report and see how it differs and what other TTPs and behaviors exist as well in it. So let's open up reference 4. So this again is another Mandiant, now part of Google Cloud article, and this is on the hunt for FIN7, pursuing enigmatic and evasive global criminal operation. Once again, let's check the reference. Where did they source this auto run registry start information? Okay, so this time we had to scroll a lot further than last time, but this is under the section of FIN7 tactics, techniques, and procedures. If we come down to establish foothold, we see that persistence using registry run and run once keys was abused. And they specifically talk about the BVS and BVA entries that were referenced. One thing that I really like to talk about here, and I'm going to take a moment because you still may be wondering why we're looking at reports from not only 7 years ago, but 2 reports that were years apart or a year apart. And the idea is the reason we hunt for the behaviors is that if we are hunting for this registry run key abuse, we could be able to find it as long as we have the proper auditing and visibility in our tools and with the know-how of how to build a query around this. But if we're hunting for people abusing those locations, we can find it. And it's not going to change because that's a capability that's built into Windows boxes. What does change is the indicators of compromise, or the IOCs. And that's why you won't hear me mention hunting for IOCs. Because if we take a look, if we scroll down here to the phishing document droppers, what's the chance that menu.rtf is going to be the same file name with the same hash a year apart from the other report? Very good chance that the answer is it's not going to be. But what stayed the same? That's right, the behaviors. So you may be wondering, now that we have the values, now that we have the information, and now we see that this threat actor is actually abusing the auto-run registry location, what are we going to do about it? And that's where Cyborg comes in. Now, I'm always a fan of helping the community out whenever we can. So this is just another community hunt package that we have that focuses on those exact locations and values that FIN7 has been known to abuse. Once again, even though they are a year apart, the reason they're still using it is because it works. They're comfortable using it, they're human. And that's why at Cyborg, we really like to focus on the human aspect of the attack. So if you register for your free community account, you can gain access to these specially crafted hunt packages, and specifically this one. But let's take a look at the values and really learn what we're searching for. So if we go down to the query logic table, this is where we find a field value relationship. So we're looking in the registry path field or the registry key name, and these are all the values that we're looking for. Basically, what this allows us to do is to get our thoughts on paper, put it in a tool-agnostic way, that we can understand that we are looking for these values in a field that matches the registry path field in a log source. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll up. We're going to grab a Splunk query, and we're going to make sure we're using the sysmon log source, which you can see here. And we're going to jump into our tool, and we're going to see what the results look like. Okay, so we took our query from the Hunter platform, and we threw it in Splunk, and the first thing we notice is that we have hits. So one thing I'd like to recommend is never freaking out about seeing results, because the reason we call these hunt packages, we're expecting false positives. There are legitimate reasons to use the capabilities of the current version or the auto-run registry key locations. So first recommendation is to not freak out. 2, read the data and make sure that it matches the logic of the query. And 3, see if there's anything that matches that doesn't match the intent, but maybe the logic does. So taking a look, we're getting some results. We see the current version run once. We see the current version run registry locations as well, and we can see that they match up to the values that are in the query itself. Now let's do a little tweaking because we have a couple different computers. So let's focus on one, and we're going to add a field named the details. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to take a look at the registry key details, so the executables of the code that's actually being referenced. So we're going to look at test desktop 2BB, and we're going to see what the results look like. So now we're down to 405 events, down from 872. We see the two computers that we referenced, 2BB WW1B and 2BB 0. So now that we have the results and we know that this is all auto-run registry locations, let's take a look at the counts. Let's look at the registry details. So this doesn't look too fishy. MS Edge, startup window. Here we see some code being executed, which it may or may not be completely legitimate or malicious. And coming down here as well, not a lot of stuff happened here. One thing that you have to do whenever it comes to threat hunting is to really figure out what exists in your environment and what is expected activity and what isn't. And now that takes some time, that takes some tribal knowledge, but these hunt packages are designed to at least get you close enough to this activity so that you can start hunting for it and you can start picking out what's normal and what's not. And starting to be able to identify the malicious or suspicious activity. Thank you for joining me today for this quick tutorial. We hope this in-depth explanation not only enhances your understanding of sophisticated threat groups like FIN7, but what resources we use to research these adversaries, but it also equips you with the tools to help ensure you take a proactive approach to protecting your systems. Don't forget to register for your free Hunter account to stay ahead of your threat hunting efforts. For more insights and updates, stay tuned for the next episode. And as always, stay safe and happy hunting.